1 minute ago, Britain crossed the point of no return. King Charles is officially trapped, the government is collapsing, and the people are refusing to back down. What just happened inside Westminster is already being called the most dramatic political breakdown in living memory. This isn't a rumour, this isn't speculation, this is a full-scale constitutional crisis unfolding in real time, and the King of England is standing at the centre of it. Right now, millions of Britons are demanding immediate elections, and for the first time, it looks like the government may not survive the week. It all started with what looked like just another ordinary political petition. For months, frustration had been simmering across the country. Rising prices, failing public services, endless scandals, but nobody thought it would explode like this. Then, late last night, something extraordinary happened. A new petition calling for an immediate general election went viral, gathering more than 1 million signatures in just 12 hours. By sunrise, it had passed 3 million. By noon, it crossed 5 million. That's not just a political message, that's an earthquake. This is now the largest petition in British history, bigger than Brexit-related campaigns, bigger than any protest movement in decades, and it's still climbing by the minute. Inside Downing Street, the mood has shifted from worry to total panic. Senior advisors have been holding crisis meetings around the clock, some lasting until 4 a.m, as they scramble to hold the government together. The Prime Minister's approval rating has collapsed to a record low of 16%. Even cabinet ministers are reportedly questioning whether the government can survive the week without calling an election. According to sources close to Westminster, multiple MPs are preparing to defect, threatening to vote with the opposition in a no-confidence motion that could bring down the government in days. But this isn't just a political crisis anymore, it's now a constitutional showdown. For the first time in decades, public anger has turned toward Buckingham Palace itself. Crowds have gathered outside the gates, holding signs that read, "Charles choose democracy and save Britain, call elections." Images of these protests are flooding social media and being shared millions of times around the world. This is uncharted territory for the monarchy. For centuries, British kings and queens have stayed above politics. But now the people are demanding the king step in, dissolve parliament, and force the government to face the voters. And here's where things get dangerous. If Charles does intervene, it would be the first time a monarch has dissolved a government against its will in nearly 200 years. It would shatter the tradition of royal neutrality and could trigger a political firestorm that threatens the monarchy's very survival. But if he does nothing, the crisis could spiral out of control, leaving Britain effectively ungoverned, while protests sweep across the nation. Social media is acting as the engine of this uprising. The hashtag #GeneralElectionNow has been trending globally for 10 straight days, generating more than 2 billion impressions. TikTok videos of families marching in the streets are getting millions of views in hours. Even traditionally quiet groups like pensioners and small business owners are speaking out. Facebook groups demanding elections have added hundreds of thousands of new members overnight. For the first time, every major demographic, young and old, left and right, north and south, is united under a single demand: let the people decide. Economically, the fallout is already being felt. The pound has dropped nearly 5% in less than a week. The FTSE has lost tens of billions in market value as investors pull money out of London. Business leaders are warning that Britain's international reputation is at risk. According to reports, several multinational firms are already considering relocating parts of their operations if political stability isn't restored soon. The Governor of the Bank of England has issued an extraordinary warning that prolonged instability could trigger a financial crisis worse than 2008. Palace insiders are describing an atmosphere of fear and tension. Charles is reportedly holding private consultations with top legal experts and former prime ministers to understand what powers he actually has. Some advisors are telling him that neutrality is no longer an option, that if he refuses to act, he risks being remembered as the monarch who watched Britain's democracy collapse without lifting a finger. Others warn that any intervention could destroy the monarchy's credibility forever. The pressure is building, hour by hour, and there is no easy way out. Right now, Westminster is preparing for what could be the most explosive week in modern political history. Multiple cross-party MPs have confirmed that a vote of no confidence is imminent. And this time, the government is almost certain to lose. If that happens, Constitutional Convention says the Prime Minister must resign, but there are already rumours that the Prime Minister might refuse, arguing that calling an election would hand power to what they call an angry mob. That would leave Britain with a government that has no authority, no legitimacy, and no public support, a situation that hasn't happened in more than 3 centuries. Parliament, the Crown, and the people would all be in open confrontation with no clear path forward. Security services are bracing for unrest. Police forces across the country are on high alert as protests grow larger by the hour. These aren't just weekend marches anymore. These are rolling demonstrations that are shutting down major roads, overwhelming public transport, and drawing hundreds of thousands of people every single day. From London to Manchester, Edinburgh to Cardiff, the crowds are growing louder and more defiant. Intelligence sources have reportedly warned the Home Office that if just one protest turns violent, it could trigger a chain reaction across the country, pushing Britain into a full-scale public order crisis. Behind palace walls, King Charles is under unbearable pressure. His advisors are split into two warring factions. One camp, made up of younger reform-minded aides, is urging him to dissolve Parliament and force elections, even if it means tearing up 300 years of precedent. They argue that the monarchy cannot survive if it appears to be protecting an illegitimate government. You can't stay neutral when democracy itself is collapsing. One senior aide was quoted as saying, "The other camp, traditionalists, who see the Crown's survival as dependent on strict political neutrality, are warning that intervention would open the monarchy to accusations of dictatorship and turn Charles into the most controversial monarch since King George III. International pressure is mounting as well. European leaders are privately urging Britain to resolve the crisis before it destabilises the rest of the continent. The White House has issued an extraordinary late-night statement stressing that democratic accountability must be maintained. NATO officials are reportedly monitoring the situation closely, concerned that political chaos could weaken one of the alliance's most important members at a critical time. The world is watching and Britain's credibility is on the line. Economic conditions are worsening by the day. Supermarkets are reporting shortages of key items as supply chains are disrupted by protests and strikes. Fuel prices have spiked 12% in a single week as transport unions threaten to shut down the country if elections aren't called. Small businesses are warning they might not survive another month of political paralysis. Economists are now predicting that Britain could enter a full-blown recession if the crisis continues past the next 2 weeks. And yet the government continues to dig in its heels. Senior ministers are reportedly drafting legislation that would delay any general election until 2026, an unprecedented move that has only enraged the public further. Protest organisers have responded by announcing Democracy Day, a nationwide shutdown scheduled for later this week. Teachers, nurses, railway workers and civil servants are all expected to walk out simultaneously, potentially costing the economy billions in a single day. Charles is said to be spending hours each day reading briefings, legal opinions, and private letters from MPS church leaders, and even foreign heads of state. According to insiders, a national television address has already been drafted, but no one knows what it contains. Will he dissolve Parliament and call for fresh elections, risking accusations of royal overreach? Will he defend the government even as millions take to the streets? Or will he try to walk a dangerous middle line that could satisfy no one and push Britain closer to chaos? Sources close to the palace describe the king as deeply conflicted, but aware that whatever he decides could define the monarchy for generations. The crown has survived abdications, wars, and scandals, but it has never faced a moment like this. One wrong move could destroy public trust forever. One right move could save British democracy, but at the cost of turning the monarchy into a direct political actor. The next 48 hours will decide everything. Britain is standing on the edge of its biggest political transformation since World War II. The people are united like never before. The government is cornered and the king is trapped in an impossible choice that could either save or destroy the monarchy. Whatever happens next will be remembered for centuries, and the entire world is waiting to see what King Charles does.